Hey, Morningstar small groups, welcome to Monopolized, this brand new series that we're doing. And that word may sound unfamiliar, but certainly the content of what we're going to be talking about these next several weeks is something that all of us have felt at some point in life, where we've just kind of been monopolized. We've been kind of controlled by stuff and our calendar, and Jesus said it, right? We can't have two masters. We've got to figure out what is going to be the one thing that drives our life. Where are we going to drive our plan, our purpose, and choose to let that really monopolize our decisions, our thoughts, our actions, and our lifestyle. We're obviously using the Monopoly board, and as you can tell, my board, our game has been used a lot. The edges are all taped together, it's torn apart, but Monopoly was one of Sam's favorite games growing up, and his favorite person to play with was his grandpa. And he learned a lot in that game, and I don't think it's really that fun. It seems too long to me, and honestly, the original game wasn't intended to actually be fun. It was intended to be educational, to warn people against excess, about the accumulation of property and what monopolies can do in life. And Lizzie McGee actually had the first game called the Landlord's Game, and that was the actual purpose. Ironically, her game was pretty much stolen by a guy named Charles Darrow, who took the unofficial version of the Landlord's Game to Parker Brothers and sold it. And within like a year, Parker Brothers was distributing 35,000 copies of the game. And to date, there have been 1,298 versions of Monopoly created. And some of us have outgrown playing this particular game, but we've seen ourselves playing the game in life, continuing to go out and look for that next purchase, to look for that next property, to look to stuff to give us what our heart is really looking for: joy and peace, significance, satisfaction, security. And the truth is that we can't find those things in our stuff, that we can find those things only in God. And we began this series in worship this weekend talking about the issue of contentment, that contentment is a satisfied heart. It's a heart that's satisfied with what we have, a spirit that's alive and open to God, whatever the circumstances. Like Paul, the apostle, said, I have learned the secret to be content. I know what it's like to have plenty. I know what it's like to have very little. In seasons of abundance and seasons of scarcity, I have learned the secret to be content. And his secret is that God will supply his every need. The secret is to look to God to be the source of peace and joy and fulfillment instead of the stuff of this world. But the only way we're going to do that is to cultivate this secret of contentment, that we would learn what contentment, how to do contentment, to cultivate that in our life. And in services, I talked about School of Contentment, and I gave you 4 classes. And let me review those with you before we close out and start our actual conversation. The first class in the School of Contentment is to set a strategic plan. Just like in Monopoly, we need to know what our goal is. Are we a utility and railroad kind of person? Are we a high rent person with yellows and greens and blue properties that we're going to focus on? Are we a slumdog millionaire? We're going to buy all the cheap properties and amass a whole bunch and just hope that we can ding you to death. And when you know your plan, that helps you be able to say yes to certain properties and no to others. Other people may want that property a lot, but you can say no because it doesn't line up with the plan that you've set for your life. And my encouragement to each of you is to set a strategic plan for your life, to ask yourself during this series, what's the most important investment of my time, of my resources, of my money? Is it into my stuff? Is it into my kids? Is it into my church? Is it into my community? And the decisions that I make every day, the decisions I make when I go to the store, when I open up, eBay and shop online, the decisions I make with my calendar, are they consistent with a strategic plan? Because a strategic plan helps us determine, it's that plumb line to evaluate our wants and our needs. What do we really, really have to have that's going to move us forward toward our goals and priorities versus, man, that would be really cool to have that. That would feel so good. It would make me so happy. So set a strategic plan. That's class number one. And the second is to simplify our stuff, to do an inventory of your closets and your calendar, and to know that less is actually more, that more stuff is never going to be enough, and actually that we start desiring less, that we're going to love less stuff, and we're also going to love the stuff we have less, that we're going to want what we already have instead of worrying about how we're going to maybe get our hands on the things that we don't have. And so do that inventory. Go through your house, go through your closets, figure out a way to kind of declutter, simplify what you have down to the things that you really love, the things that you really need. And you're going to feel just a sense of peace, of lightening your load. So set a strategic plan, simplify your stuff, and then third, cultivate a spirit of gratitude. And this is about a prayer life that's thankful to God for all that we have. Listen, friends, we need to be thankful that God has blessed us with more stuff than 95% of the people who live on this planet. We need to be thankful for that instead of comparing ourselves to the 5% of people in the world who may have just a little bit more than we do. To being thankful every day for the gift of life, to be thankful for whatever health we have, whatever home we have, whatever food we have, that if we have food and clothing, we have health, that we have our friends, we have family, we have our church, and we know that Jesus died, we can be content. And then the fourth class is to give generously. It's the way that we learn contentment is that we don't put our emphasis on our stuff. That stuff is temporary, that God wants to give us what is eternal, and that God is going to give us exactly what we need so that in every occasion we can be richly blessed and be generous to other people who come into our life. So we encourage you to take that next step on the giving pathway, to grow in your generosity so that you can be content with what you have. You can learn what God really has for you. You can get rid of the excess and then join Him in His effort to be a blessing to others. And friends, what you're going to discover in your life as you begin to align those priorities and make those kind of decisions and treat the temporary stuff as temporary, that at the end of the day, man, it's all going to go back in the box, to make sure that you're living this life, that you only get to go around the board once in the most strategic way possible that's going to line up with God's plan and purpose for your life. And when you do, you're going to discover a peace that passes all understanding. Hey, enroll this week in the School of Contentment, and you're going to learn the secret. You're going to learn the secret regardless of what the circumstances of life dictate to you. So as you begin your small group, I want you to talk about what was the game that you loved playing most as a kid, and who did you enjoy playing it with the most. And I'll see you in worship next weekend. God bless you guys. Have a great conversation.